Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss about the chapter Molecular Basis of Inheritance, and part 5 focuses on packaging of DNA helix. The DNA molecule is huge. It is very long. Therefore, proper packaging of DNA is very important. And we'll see how this happens in this particular video. And sometimes there are few questions that can be asked in the NIT examination from this part, and we'll go through these questions as we progress through the video. So huge molecules of DNA are highly condensed during mitosis and meiosis. The DNA molecule of humans, the DNA in humans, it is 3 meters long. It is approximately 3 meters long. Can you imagine such a long DNA, and it is present in every cell of the body? Therefore, it is important that this DNA molecule is highly condensed, and this happens during mitosis and meiosis. So, DNA is packaged into several chromosomes, and each chromosome is present in 2 or more copies. When it is present in 2, it is diploid, or when it is present in more, it is polyploid. So, what happens in humans? In humans, we all know that there are 2 types of chromosomes. They are called as autosomes, or they are the sex chromosomes. Okay, and each of these chromosomes has 2 copies. They are diploid in case of humans. So these chromosomes that are basically diploid, or they can also be polyploid. In humans, in certain diseases, they can be polyploid, and in other organisms, they can occur in polyploidy stage. So this chromosome is highly condensed form of DNA. Okay, so this chromosome is packaged, it is condensed. So condensed basically means, it is it has kind of gained the space. So DNA is packaged, so now it can occupy the same length in a lesser space. It is not that long anymore, and this is called as chromosome. So DNA is packaged into several chromosomes, and each chromosome is present in 2 diploid or more polyploid copies. In prokaryotes such as E. coli, though they do not have a defined nucleus, the DNA is not scattered throughout the cell. Okay, so in case of E. coli, they do not have a defined nucleus, but still the DNA is properly condensed. It is not just scattered anywhere throughout the cell. So proper packaging of DNA takes place even in case of prokaryotes E. coli. DNA, being negatively charged, is held with some proteins that have positive charges in a region termed as nucleoid or genophore. Okay, DNA being negatively charged. Why is DNA negatively charged? Do you remember? You remember when we talked about DNA, the structure of DNA, what does DNA have? DNA has phosphates. The phosphate group, You remember nucleotide. Nucleotide is the functional and structural. It is the structural unit of DNA, and nucleotide consists of nitrogenous base, pentose sugar, and the phosphate group. And these phosphate group have negative charge. Okay, that is why it is very important that you remember DNA is negatively charged. And it is held with some proteins that have positive charges. Okay, you might have learned, in your physics subject that negative and positive. Negative attracts positive. Opposite charges attract each other. So the negatively charged DNA and positively charged proteins. So if something is negatively charged, here DNA, and something that is positively charged protein, they will attract each other. Okay, so DNA being negatively charged, it is held with some proteins that have positive charges in a region termed as nucleoid or genophore. You should remember this. Sometimes there will be very easy questions like what is nucleoid or what is genophore. Okay, you have to remember DNA is negatively charged. The condensed state of DNA in the nucleoid of a bacterial cell is known as folded genome. Okay, so the condensed state of DNA in nucleoid of bacterial cell is called as folded genome. So DNA is packaged into several chromosomes, because it is highly condensed and because it is very long, and it needs less space. Therefore, it is condensed to form several chromosomes. And humans, it is generally diploid, or it can also be polyploid. And in prokaryotes, although they do not have defined nucleus, the DNA is still not scattered, So packaging of DNA takes place even in case of prokaryotes. And DNA is negatively charged. So now we will see the packaging of DNA in case of E. coli. Okay, so this is the circular DNA, and in case of E. coli, it is 350 micrometer. It is still quite small, but still the condensation takes place, okay, because E. coli itself is also a very, very small organism. So it is circular unfolded chromosome. Here you look, it is just circular. Then what happens is, there is folded chromosome that has 40 to 50 loops, these are like the loops. This is the loop structure that it has, and then there is folding taking place. Okay, and then it is supercoiled folded chromosome. What is supercoiled? When there is coiling of the coiling, then it is called supercoiled. You see, here it is coiled, and then it is coiled even more. So this is called as supercoiling. This part here is called as supercoiling. Okay. So each loop is independently supercoiled. So this is one loop, and each of the loop is supercoiled. So you see, from 350 micrometer to 30 micrometer to 2 micrometer, how much it has condensed? It has gone from 350 micrometer to 2 micrometer. That is how all the organisms, not even just E. coli, even in humans, that is how the DNA is condensed. The DNA is further segregated into domains or loops. There are 40 to 50 loops in E. coli. We just saw in the previous figure, there were these kinds of loops that were present. And these loops are held by proteins. Okay, you must remember that these loops are held by proteins. And what is the charge on DNA? You remember, right? DNA is negatively charged. So these proteins that it is held by will be positively charged. Okay, it is important. Each domain is independently negatively supercoiled. So there are two types of supercoiling. One is positive supercoiling and one is negative supercoiling. So what happens in case of positive supercoiling? It is more winding, It is winded in a right-handed fashion, and negative supercoiling is unwinding, like it is winded in the opposite direction. Okay. So there is negatively supercoiling of each of these domains. They are independently negatively supercoiled. If you remember the previous figure we saw, we could see that various loops were supercoiled. In eukaryotes, this organization is even more complex. Of course, eukaryotic organisms are much more complex than prokaryotic organisms. And what is there in eukaryotic organism? There is a set of positively charged basic proteins called as histones. You must remember this, They are called as histones, and generally there will be questions from histones. We'll see what kind of questions will be there. So you see, they are positively charged. So DNA is what? DNA is negatively charged, and the histones, they are basic proteins and they are positively charged. So negative attracts positive. A protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acid residues with charged side chains. We will see in the later parts of this chapter about amino acid residues, but maybe from your previous knowledge, you know that there are charges on amino acid. Okay, so a protein acquires charge. So why are these histone proteins positively charged? Because of the presence of certain amino acid residues. And which are these amino acid residues? They are lysine and arginine. Okay, and they are basic amino acid. Okay, so a protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acid with charged side chains, and histones are basic amino residues that contain lysine and arginine. So it is very important that you remember that negative attracts positive. What is negative here? DNA, and what is positive? It is histone. And why is histone positive? Because of lysine and arginine. So sometimes, they can ask these questions, which are the amino acid residues of histones, like most abundant, that contribute to the positive charge. So it's lysine and arginine. Must remember this. So both lysine and arginine, both the amino acids, they carry positive charge in their side chains. Okay. So now we talk about histones. Histones are organized to form a unit of 8 molecules that is called as histone octamer. We'll see, what is a histone octamer in a moment. The negatively charged DNA is wrapped, negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a structure called as nucleosome. So here is the DNA and DNA is negatively charged. Okay, so this is the negative charge and the positively charged histones are bound to the DNA because they attract this negatively charged. So negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form structure called as nucleosome. This is important, The structure of DNA and histone octamer is called as nucleosome. A typical nucleosome contains 200 base pairs of DNA helix. Okay. So nucleosome constitute the repeating unit of structure in nucleus called as chromatin, which is thread-like stained colored bodies that is seen in the nucleus. So a typical nucleosome contains 200 base pairs of DNA helix. For example, let's say this is a long DNA helix, with millions of base pairing. And here, for example, is the 200 base pairs. So nucleosome constitute the repeating unit of a structure in nucleus called as chromatin. Okay, so this structure will form the chromatin structure, which is what? Thread-like stained bodies that are seen in the nucleus. If you stain the nucleus, you will see that there are certain stained colored bodies that are thread-like structures and they are called as chromatin. Okay. So the nucleosome in chromatin are seen as bead on string structure when they are viewed under electron microscope. Okay, this might be a little bit difficult to understand, but we'll now see it in the next slide. So there are 5 histone proteins. It is very important that you remember these because there can be direct questions in the NIT examination. So which are the 5 proteins? H1, H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. Okay, it is like histone from H1, 2A, 2B, 2, 3, 4. And there are 4 core histone proteins, H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. Okay, so H1 is not the core histone protein. And now if you look at this, so here it is the DNA. Okay, this is the DNA. And this is the H1 histone. H1 histone is generally bigger and it is alone. Okay, it binds to the DNA alone. So the 4 core histone proteins H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. They are the core histone proteins. And you see here it is core of histone molecules. So the core of histone molecules is formed by the 4 core histone proteins, and which one are H2A, H2B, H3, H4. It is very easy to remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just have to remember that 2 has H2A and H2B that form the core histone molecules. Because it is the first, it is the biggest, it doesn't contribute, it is not constituted in the core. Okay. So the histone octamer, we talked about the histone octamer in the previous slide. So the histone octamer consists of 2 copies of each of the 4 core histone proteins. So octamer. What is octamer? As the name suggests, 8. Okay. So 8. How are these 8 coming? So these are 4. H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. And because it is H2A, H2B, they are generally present in a dimer. H2A, H2B. Okay, they are generally present in a dimer. And how are they 8? So then there is H3 and H4. So this is 2, 2, this is H3 and H4. So these are 4 here. What is an octamer? Octamer consists of 2 copies of each of the 4 core histone proteins H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. The octamer assembles when a tetramer containing 2 copies of both H3 and H4 complexes with 2 H2A and H2B dimers. It is a lot of information, but you need to remember. Let's go again step by step. There are 5 histone proteins, H1, which is alone, it is the biggest one, it is alone. Then it is H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. And H2A, H2B, H3 and H4 are the core histone proteins. You need to remember they are the core histone proteins. And then there is something called as histone octamer. Octamer we know is always 8. It consists of 2 copies of each of the 4 core histone proteins. And which are the core histone proteins? H2A, H2B, H3 and H4. Now, how is this octamer formed? Here you see this green structure, but it is not in reality just one ball. Okay. So, the octamer assembles when a tetramer containing 2 copies of both H3 and H4. For example, let's say hypothetically it looks like this. So, it contains 2 copies of both H3, 2 copies of H3 and 2 copies of H4. Complexes with 2 H2A and H2B dimers. Okay, so here I told you that H2A and H2B exist as a dimer. It is very easy to remember, right? It is AB. So there is a reason why it is called as H2A and H2B, because it exists as a dimer. The octamer is formed when 2 copies of each of H3 and H4 binds to 2 dimers of H2A, H2B. They will combine together and this results in the formation of histone octamer. Okay, so now coming back to this figure, this is the structure of the nucleosome. Here is your DNA molecule and this is the H1 histone. And this is the core of histone molecules, that is a histone octamer. How is this histone octamer formed? This histone octamer is formed when 2 copies of H3 and 2 copies of H4 bind to 2 dimers of H2A and H2B. Okay, this is very important. You must remember these because there will be questions surrounding, all of these things that we discussed here in this slide. And sometimes these questions are very easy. They will just directly ask you which are the core histone proteins, and then they will give you certain examples. The packaging of chromatin at higher level requires additional set of proteins that are collectively referred to as non-histone chromosomal proteins. Okay, so these histone proteins, they are positively charged that bind to the negatively charged DNA. You must remember this. Okay. But in addition to these histone proteins that are positively charged and contain lysine and arginine as major amino acids, there are additional amino acids there are additional proteins called as non-histone chromosomal proteins, also abbreviated as NHC. Okay, so there are histone proteins and there are non-histone proteins. So they are non-histone chromosomal proteins because they help in the packaging of DNA. Okay. So there are another set of proteins. In a typical nucleus, some region of chromatin are loosely packed and they stain light and are referred to as euchromatin. And the chromatin that is more densely packed and stains dark is called as heterochromatin. For example, let's say this is the DNA molecule. Okay. So here there is like a lot of negative, like the negative charge is equally distributed, But let's say, for example, at this particular place, there are not that many histone proteins. Okay, so the amount of DNA that is exposed, you see, the amount of DNA that is exposed is more. And that is what they say, that the region of chromatin is loosely packed and it stains light. That is why it is called as euchromatin. So you kind of remember it in a way that when not a lot of histone proteins are present in a particular area of DNA, there is much more DNA that is exposed. Okay, and then the chromatin are loosely packed and therefore they stain light. We discussed that chromatin, if you stain them and see them under the nucleus, they are like thread-like structures that also are stained. So these chromatin that are stained light are referred to as euchromatin. And the chromatin that is more densely packed, for example, let's say this is again the DNA molecule and then there is negatively charged and it is all occupied, by proteins, both histone proteins and non-histone proteins, that are non-histone chromosomal proteins. So you see, at some point you don't even see where is the DNA. You see, so euchromatin is set. So the chromatin that is more densely packed and stains dark is called as heterochromatin, because now you can't see DNA. There is all proteins and proteins, so the staining will also be dark. So is the difference clear? Like here, there is this DNA molecule and there is very less proteins that is present. Therefore, more DNA is exposed and therefore it is called as euchromatin. It stains light. And the chromatin that is more densely packed. Why is it more densely packed? Because there are more proteins on DNA. Okay, so there are much more proteins here. It stains dark and it is called as heterochromatin. And why are we talking about this euchromatin and heterochromatin? It is very important because euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active chromatin, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. What does this mean? Do you remember what is transcription? In the previous parts we have talked a lot, like we didn't talk in detail, but the process we all know, right? What is transcription? When DNA is converted to mRNA in humans, so this process is called as transcription. Okay, so euchromatin. What is euchromatin? Euchromatin is the loosely packed chromatin where there is not a lot of protein. And I said that the DNA is exposed. What does this mean that DNA is exposed? That this DNA can now be converted to mRNA very easily, because it is exposed. There is not a lot of proteins that are there. And therefore, euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active, which means transcription can take place in these regions. Whereas heterochromatin, what is heterochromatin? A lot of proteins are there. You cannot even see where the DNA is and therefore it is inactive, which means this part of the DNA will not be transcribed. Okay, so this is very important. In the next subsequent parts, we will see the process of transcription and everything, and it will become even more clear. But it is very important for you to remember that the loosely packed chromatin is euchromatin, where there is less protein on the DNA, and the chromatin that is more densely packed, stains dark, is heterochromatin. Euchromatin is transcriptionally active, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. So from this part, it is very important that you know about histones, You know about histones. You know about the core histones. Which are the core histones? You remember they are H2A, H2B, H3, H4. Okay, and then it is very important you know what is a histone octamer. Sometimes there are very easy and straightforward questions, coming. And then you must know the difference between euchromatin and heterochromatin. Okay, so euchromatin is transcriptionally active and heterochromatin is transcriptionally inactive. So these are where the questions will be generally from this part in the NIT examination. Thank you for watching the video.